Yeah, you ever own one of those and one shorts?
Oh, I had a pair of and one shorts back in the day.
I had one too, not the shoes, but I definitely had the shorts.
Yeah, the shorts were good. The logo to that was pretty good too.
It was
all
right.
things considered. Yeah, it made total sense.
And we're back at the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Quinn, with my other host, Dom DiTolla. Today we're going to be talking about the and one inspiration. Skip to my Lou. Rafer Alston.
Great nickname. Just a great nickname, like a perfect nickname for a point guard of his caliber.
And it goes with the way he would skip up the court.
Yeah, pretty much just skipping. It was very, he played a unique brand of ball that I'm sure we'll go into and kind of launched a franchise, not a sports team franchise, but a basketball media franchise into kind of the stratosphere.
Yeah, in which I want to say, I'm not sure he necessarily got paid for that like he should.
No.
But, I mean, that's the way this shit goes. So let's get right into it. July 24th, 76. He's born in New York, New York. Brought into life. I want to say this. He grew up, in Jamaica Queens, which produced a ton of great point guards.
Tons of great point guards and guards and tons of great street ball players.
Yes, this is like the mecca of this.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, he is like born to be who he's supposed to be as far as a basketball player.
I saw that even in high school. I don't know if you saw this. He was playing with Stephon Marbury, and they were just like crushing, like not. I don't think they played pro guys, but they were playing college guys in New York, and they were just like a backcourt that would crush them on these street ball games.
And I can't even imagine having to play against both of them.
I know.
Like, and their style of play together, how well it would mesh. Like,
exactly.
Good Lord.
Oh, yeah. The frustration that you would feel. That's my thought every time.
Yeah. He played at Benjamin Cardozo High School in Queens, and his coach was chiefly responsible from a lot of his high school tape with distributing it to the people over at And One.
Well, I want to bring this up. What's his coach's name? Ron. I don't remember his last name. But his coach, because he had problems at school, he actually only played 10 games in his senior career.
Yeah.
His coach was trying to get some sort of scouting for him.
Yeah.
So he had this really grainy videotape that he would kind of pass around, and it got into the hands of the guys of the And One, and they're like, oh shit, we can make money off of this. But what he was really trying to do was get colleges interested in Rafer.
Yeah, not a corporation interested in him. Yeah,
because he played so little games that he couldn't really get scouted.
And when you're not scouted, you end up having to take the hard road if you want to play in the NBA.
And this is exactly what he did. But before he goes to college, the people at this franchise that we keep alluding to, And One, come in and they're like, hey, let's market this as almost like a new Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, it's like the street ball version of the Globetrotters.
Which I feel like people were talking shit on, but the Globetrotters were not current.
No, they weren't as relevant as they were when they had like a Wilt the Stilt playing for them.
Exactly.
Like they're probably 20 years past their prime as like being a huge thing.
Yep.
And something more modern needed to kind of take its place. And when you have a point guard, particularly a larger one for that era, as far as 6'2", 190, Rafer Alston, somebody who can handle the ball like he did and almost do like Globetrotter tricks legally, that's incredible.
Yes.
Like, that's just incredible.
Well, that's the thing that I saw was it was Globetrotter style tricks, but it was completely new, completely this new street ball-esque where it wasn't like they were going up against the Washington Generals every night, if that makes any sense.
No, not like Krusty. He's spinning the ball on his finger.
One of my favorite jokes ever, and I'll probably bring it up 8 more times on this podcast, is somebody rooting/betting for the Washington Generals.
I thought the Generals were due.
It's one of the best jokes, but that's the thing that was so different about this was they would tour around and they would play different street ball teams, or at least, you know what I mean, different.
They'd have almost exhibitions like the Globetrotters would. And you'd get to see a brand of basketball, like at least wider society would get to see a brand of basketball that you're not exposed to unless you're living in Queens.
Yes, exactly. Because they would have these summer leagues all the time. I don't know if you ever watch a movie with Tupac in it, but they have these summer leagues all the time. But this is what I mean is he pretty much cuts his teeth on the street ball and then almost isn't scouted into college.
No, and it shows because he ends up at Ventura Community College in 1994, 1995.
And he plays there for 1 year, but I feel like he's so like overmatched that everyone's just like, well, he's not going to stay.
Yeah, exactly. And he ends up transferring to Fresno City College, but he redshirts a year.
But he redshirts, which I thought was interesting, but I bet they were like, oh, we're going to bring you in next year.
Yeah.
And then he plays next year for 1 year again.
And completely dominates, but our old friend gets to watch him at Fresno City College and offers him a scholarship to join
Fresno State.
Yep.
Which I thought
Tark the Shark.
I thought was interesting because it's pretty much exactly the type of player that Tark would pick up.
Easily. Community college guy with maybe some issues in his past.
Yep.
Somebody
who's being overlooked.
Right in. And that year, Fresno, if you aren't familiar, 97, 98, the only year he plays for them because his eligibility is up after that year.
Yep.
He's on a team with 3 other guys that played in the NBA. I mean, they were preseason ranked top 15. I mean, they were like set to be a really good team. I mean, you had Terrence Robertson, Chris Herron, Tremaine Folks, and now a brand new point guard who is fantastic to pair with Herron in the backcourt.
Exactly. Which, I love that. The thing that Tark sees in these kids, and we've talked about it in previous podcasts, but it's just Rafer Alston was like the perfect one at that point because UNLV's, done at that in that shit. They should have had a better season than they did, but that's,
Yeah, what they end up doing though, that year, Alston has a great year. He shows out. I mean, the team is very talented, but they're very inconsistent.
Yes,
he has 11 points per game, 2.2 rebounds, and 7.3 assists. I mean, he's their assists guy. He's the distributor for everybody. And what they end up doing though is they go to the NIT Final Four in Madison Square Garden that year.
Yeah,
they end up finishing 4th. They lose both games, but they do end up having a pretty successful season as far as Fresno State standards, despite the fact that they were, ranked preseason top 15.
Definitely.
But his career is over. He plays only 1 season of major college basketball. Like, it's slightly more than Sean Kemp, but it's not necessarily a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And then this is where we have this break. So he gets drafted in the NBA, but also this is where And One really blows up. So And One has these different volumes. Volume 1 essentially just followed Skip to My Lou, which is Rafer Alston's nickname.
Oh, it's so good.
Around, and then he goes to college, so he's not in any of the other ones. And then they get to Volume 5, and he comes back, and you see how much better he is than a lot of these other players.
Well, he's so much more polished because he's playing, even though he's at the community college level and he's only at the D1 level for a year, you can tell that he's improved.
Yes.
You can tell how much he's improved and just what a dominant type of player he can be in that type of setting.
Well, I feel like a lot of these guys have like some great handles or in like 1 or 2 great moves. He was a complete point guard.
He's like a magician with the ball, dude.
Yeah.
Like just the way he's able to, cross it over, dribble it between his legs. Just
man.
Just you never know where the ball is going to go with him.
Yeah.
And like you said before, he was picked in the draft in the 2nd round, though, 39th overall pick by the Milwaukee Bucks. And the beginning of his career is just kind of a struggle to not only acclimate himself to the NBA style of play, but just get on the court.
Yeah, well, I feel like he's drafted for a backup point guard, and I hate to say it, but his personality is not a backup point guard.
No, I mean, he's got to be the guy.
Yes.
Like, he's not used to coming off the bench. He's not used to basically being on scout team and practices. And it shows because in his first 114 games from 1999 to 2002, he basically starts 9 games.
Yep.
And he's just a non-factor on those Bucks teams with like Glenn Robinson and Ray Allen and stuff.
Yeah. And then we see he kind of gets traded and bounced around a little.
Yeah, he's traded to Toronto,
Yep.
and where he plays a little bit more, but he's still kind of a non-factor on those Carter and McGrady teams. But 2003 and 2004, when he's with the Miami Heat, this is when he's on kind of a younger team. This is, I think, the year before Shaq comes, so it's really just Dwayne Wade.
It is.
And a bunch of young guys, and he kind of finds his niche with this team.
Yeah, because he's the number one point guard at this point for the first time. Dwayne Wade's the shooting guard, and they can really start getting into this rhythm. And we see that he
plays in all 82 games, over
Yep.
10 points a game, 4.5 assists, and he leads the team to the Eastern Conference semifinals.
Yeah.
This is a team that was picking in the lottery the previous season.
Yeah, no, it's really great. Once he's given this responsibility, he becomes this really great point guard, and this is when everybody is really talking about this transformation of this guy from street baller to professional. And then I love how he can still throw the street ball shit in and just be like, no, there's no transition. This is just me all through.
Hey everybody, just want to take a quick break to let you know that our Sports Experience podcast is brought to you by Engle Studio here, and they're here in Tucson for all your recording needs.
Me being a jazz musician on the floor, but how
Yeah.
inspiring must that have been to like kids who grew up watching that to be like, holy shit, Skip to My Lou is playing at the highest possible level of basketball.
He's playing for the Heat right now.
Like he comes from this grainy video in Jamaica, Queens, all the way to the NBA.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. So he gets traded to. Does he get traded to the Rockets from the Heat, or does he go back to the Toronto?
What ends up happening is because he played so well, he signs a big free agent contract with the Raptors.
That's what it is.
He goes back
Okay.
to Toronto for 2004,
Yes.
2005.
Okay.
And he had some issues with the coaching staff and kind of with his attitude
That's
there.
what I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
And so the Rockets try and go in for a trade to the Raptors, and Jeff Van Gundy contacts his brother,
Stan Van Gundy, yeah.
who was the coach at Miami Heat.
Who looks like Ron Jeremy's doppelganger. I am not joking. Google that.
It is a weird one and slightly turns me on. Hey, man, the guy is a rapist, not the Van Gundys. All right, we're getting sidetracked.
Jesus Christ.
But he contacts his brother and says, hey, does this guy have a serious attitude problem, or is he just having a problem with this coach? And Stan tells his brother Jeff, he's like, no, this guy will be your number one point guard if you bring him in.
Well, and what he ended up doing is he's setting career highs in points per game with 14.2 and assists per game, 6.4. Or where he has 6.4 assists a game. It's not his career high. But, I mean, he's still playing well in Toronto. He just doesn't mesh with what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And because of the Van Gundys, because Jeff Van Gundy, who's now coaching the Rockets, he's had a history of turning a lot of malcontent players into just really productive individuals and really productive on the floor.
Everybody goes Spreewell.
Yeah, everyone goes. Yeah, Spreewell's the most talked about of those guys, but it's right before the 2005-2006 season. It's early October. He's traded back to or traded to the Rockets, excuse me.
And this is where I feel like he really clicks with this team, this Rockets team, because it's the only time he plays for like an extended period of time with the team, really.
Yeah.
He plays for him for like 3 years, so, and they go to the playoffs 2 years in a row, but they're not breaking through.
They're not breaking through, but he has finally become one of the better point guards in the NBA.
Absolutely.
Because 2005-2006, he's got 17.1 points a game, career highs in steals per game, rebounds per game, and then minutes per game.
Minutes per game, yeah.
So he's
That's
like
when he's
not stuck like he was in Milwaukee, just riding the bench. He's actually piloting the offense as Houston is rebuilding themselves into a decent team. The problem is the Western Conference at this time is completely loaded.
Yeah, you're not going to be getting through. I mean, they couldn't even get through the first round. I want to bring this up because everybody talks about what a great ball handler he is. All right, don't take that out of context, but he is one of the better defensive point guards right now in this era in the NBA, and it's not really talked about enough because he is so great offensive.
Yeah, I mean, you always notice when a guy's special like that you tend to overlook how good he is in other areas.
Exactly. Because just averaging 2 steals, a little bit over 2 steals a game for the season is so
That's
great.
hard to do.
Yes.
That's very hard to do against professional athletes.
Exactly. So I want to get into 2009, though, because midway through the season, he gets traded to the Magic because Jameer Nelson goes out injured.
Yeah. So the Magic are enjoying a really good season. Houston had kind of peaked in 2007, making the Western Conference semifinals, but they're, still a couple of players away, and, you're not beating the Spurs and you're not beating the Lakers of this era.
Yep.
Even though Alston is having the best run of his career at this juncture with the Rockets, they're like, well,
they're not breaking through.
They're not breaking through, and what they decide to do is basically just trade him away.
Yeah, which, sometimes you have to do that. And the Magic really needed him at this point because they had a good team, but
the Magic were primed for a playoff run, a deep playoff run in the Eastern Conference in 2009.
But their point guard went out. So
they
were like,
Jameer Nelson gets hurt.
Yep. So let's go get a new point guard. And that's where we see him have his best playoff run, obviously, because they I think they beat I forget who they beat first, but then they beat the Celtics and then the Cavs.
Yeah.
To go on to the finals
against the Lakers.
But this is where the controversy comes, and then we come back with the Van Gundys because it's Stan this time, I believe, subs Jameer Nelson in the finals.
He does, yeah.
Over Rafer, who had essentially brought this team there. So it's such
I was watching those Eastern Conference Finals games against the Cavs.
Yep.
As particularly Game 4, that dude just turned it on.
And that's
both
what
sides of the floor.
Every fan was talking about was just like, did he not watch those Eastern Conference Finals games? Because
sometimes you have to roll with the hot hand.
Yeah.
And that's what you brought him in for.
Yeah.
You didn't you maybe brought him in to weather the storm, but when he's playing that well, you get his ass out there and let him do his skip to Malou thing.
Exactly. And that's what everybody talking shit on this, because it's hard to say that they would have beat the Lakers. This was one of those Lakers teams, but
yeah,
giving Jameer Nelson that opportunity after he was out essentially for half the season just seemed incorrect. And that was like his one shot at a championship, and
it was a good Magic team. You had Dwight Howard, you had Rashard Lewis. You had now a Jameer Nelson, you have a Rafer Alston. You are really... That was maybe really the last good Magic team that they had.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
I think so.
It's definitely the best post-Shaq one.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody can argue that. And it must have been so crazy for him to be in Houston trying to break through so many times, and then getting dealt. And then, oh my God, I'm realizing the dream.
Yeah.
I'm realizing the dream right now. And wait, you're not going to play me in the final? Look what I just did for you.
Exactly. That's the thing that's it's such a fucking bummer, because like you were saying, you have to go with the hot hand at that point. I just don't understand not following through, but we're not coaches. We're just kick-ass dudes.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of responsibility.
Exactly. So they pretty much immediately trade him to the Nets.
Yeah. They tank. I shouldn't say tank like as in losing, but they're nowhere near where they used to be.
No.
And he asked them to trade him to a contender.
Yeah.
That was his wish, and then it was granted. Not too many people want to go to New Jersey for a lot of reasons, but hey, you do you.
Yeah, exactly.
But did okay with the Nets.
Yeah.
And then
I was going to say, he kind of is petering off at this point. So he's doing okay, but you can tell the Nets.
Oh, no, the Nets trade was for the Vince Carter trade. I'm thinking of the next one that he goes into the contender. But
okay, yes. And Vince Carter went to Miami.
No, Vince Carter went to Orlando. Rafer went to the Nets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, getting mixed up there.
I'm getting mixed up. Yeah, those damn Florida teams. Yes. But I saw he had his first ever triple-double in a Nets uniform.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You would have figured he got it earlier, though, but then you think like, oh, he didn't play his first 3 seasons.
Exactly. He was on the bench. But then, so the Nets released him. Mm-hmm. Because he said he wanted to go. This is what you were talking about. He wanted to go to a contender.
Yeah, and so they sent him to. I think this is when LeBron's in Miami. This is when Miami is starting to get everybody.
The big three.
Team. Yeah, their big three, and then adding in all the other pieces.
Which I thought this was so interesting because I'm pretty sure this is a championship team. He's on the Heat. I think he plays like 22 games. And then the Heat...
Then some weird shit happens.
The Heat came out and said he missed practice in a game with no reporting.
Yeah.
And they were like, so we suspended him. And then like... I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, nobody really kind of knows what happened, but then they come out and just suspend him indefinitely.
Yeah, so it had to have been something. That's always my thing. He
did have some legal issues while he was in Houston.
Yes,
I did know that. Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, we'll go back on that one because he got a little wild there, which I feel like this is why it's so weird in Miami, because I feel like something happened and they were like, all right, you're done.
Yeah. Something mysterious that didn't kind of get out. But 2007, August, arrested for assault and public intoxication. And then
like
towards the end of the month in New York, even though he wasn't convicted, he allegedly slashed somebody on the neck in a nightclub fight.
Yeah, I wrote down cutting a fool.
Cutting a fool. So, is that what the kids are saying now?
This was what I absolutely loved about it, was there was absolutely no evidence. So
yeah, they like totally cleared him.
Yeah. Which, I mean, we're unsure as to whether it really happened, but he definitely was going through some tough shit here.
And then arrested for DWI in August of 2000. August is not kind to him.
No, I don't know what's going on with him in August.
But we have no idea what happened as far as the Heat letting him go. But, March of that year just suspended him for the rest of the season. And that was the last time he was ever in the NBA.
Yeah, I feel like that was the last time an NBA team took a chance on him.
Which is weird because it makes me think something happened more than him just missing practice.
Me too. That was my thing.
If he's only 34 years old, his body's probably younger because he didn't play those first few seasons. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
I'm not here to speculate.
No, but
for him to not get another chance is kind of weird.
For him to not get one of those 1-year deals on a... Vancouver.
Just on a contending team, be like, do you want to be our backup point guard?
No, seriously.
And I mean, I don't know if money would have been an issue as far as the salary cap, but that is just very mysterious to me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of the weird ones. He goes and plays in China.
Yeah, Zhejiang something in China. Guangsha, I believe.
You know what? We're not going to go there.
I don't know.
One of the things I love about these foreign teams is... I forgot who else did this, but literally he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go home because my friend died and it's a funeral. And they were like, you're leaving? All right, don't come back.
Yeah, which is weird.
But I feel like teams do that. They're like, you're leaving? Okay, we're done too. And it was like, no, I was just going to go for the weekend. He was just like, no, don't come back.
You have to stay. Like, we don't want you anymore. But yeah, that's what ended up happening. He was like dominating the few Chinese games that he played in. I think he played in like 8 games.
Yep.
And they just said, don't come back.
Yeah, it's weird as shit.
After going home for a friend's funeral. Like, what is it about this guy and them just like telling him no, but not providing any details as to why?
No, it's super weird. That was my biggest pet peeve with researching this, because a lot of the time with the researching these guys, we get all of the ins and outs. And like, I kept looking up the Miami stuff. I couldn't really find anything. The China stuff, I was like, did they like hate him or something? Was it he costing him too much money? And it was just like, no, they were just like, just stay home. Like it's such a weird one, because I feel like he should have kind of had a bigger career. But I mean,
he should have had more seasons is what he should have had. Not necessarily a better career, but you would figure someone of his talent could have like held on as an NBA player for a few extra years after kind of his prime ends.
Well, I feel like his legacy kind of revolves around the and one street baller and shedding that light that, I mean, people in like myself in Tucson would have never known about, this New York street ball lifestyle. Yeah. So I feel like that's where his legacy lies, but he didn't make any of the money. I feel like that these guys just made like seriously a shit ton of money off of these tours and merchandise. But
I think if he would have done that full time and not played in the NBA, he could have probably made more money.
Yeah.
I mean, if he starts off and they give him some like stock option at the beginning to buy into the company, like he could have made, millions of dollars, like millions more dollars.
Millions
than
more,
he made
yeah. I was going to say
millions he made in the NBA.
Yeah.
But he does get one last chance playing in the D League for the Los Angeles Defenders.
Yep, which I love as a D name. They did that and they chuckled to themselves.
The D League, 2 steps above the WNBA.
But that's where we see, he just didn't have it at that point. So.
No, because he's, 36 years old at that point. And, just his career is essentially done as a pro. But by that same token, he still enjoyed a really productive NBA career for a guy that was not wanted by any college, whose main claim to fame before, 5 seasons in the NBA abyss was on grainy TV footage, grainy VHS footage for a shoe and merchandise company.
Exactly.
He played in 671 games in the NBA, averaged over 10 points a game, almost 5 assists, almost 3 rebounds, and 1.2 steals. Which is like, that's a really good career.
That is a starting point guard.
That is a really good career for a guy who was probably pushing 30 when he finally broke out.
Yeah, exactly. When he finally caught it. And that, like we were saying before, like different sports have different primes. 30 is a little late. And that's what we were talking about. But I think if you want to look at his highlights, NBA highlights are great, but you really want to go look at the And 1 Volume 1 and And 1 Volume 5 because that shit is wild.
Well, that guy, like, if you think about it, you watch those and you're like, this guy turned into an NBA point guard?
Yes.
Because it's like so dazzling what he's doing, just dribbling the ball and passing it. And he was a pretty decent 3-point shooter.
Yeah, that was something else career. I saw. Yes, definitely.
Like, he really developed into a player like not a one-dimensional point guard. He was really able to hone the other areas of his game.
Yep.
He just had that kind of limited window almost.
Yeah, no, 100%.
As far as, his success as a professional basketball player. But it's an interesting story just because when's the next time you're going to see somebody like that?
Yeah, you won't.
Yeah. Like, that's impossible.
No, yeah, that's why I loved it so much.
Oh, most definitely.
Hey, everybody. This is just a stock message at the end of every episode. We hope you enjoyed whatever athlete and or team that episode was about. Just want to say give us a quick follow on all social media. We have a YouTube channel, the Sports Experience Podcast, and we're on Instagram, DiTolla Dominic, and myself, C. Quinn Comedy. So give us a follow all around. We're always recording right here at Engle Studio. Thank you all very much.